Let's begin with a definition. Bias is a slant or an inclination towards something. It's also defined as a partiality or preference toward one point of view over another. Bias is neither good nor bad. It's important to understand that everyone has biases. Recognizing bias can help us to understand other points of view. Identifying bias in information sources requires a strategy, which this lesson will introduce. In this movie, we introduce the MAP-IT strategy. Remember the acronym MAP. The letter M stands for message. You should look critically at some information presented in a source. We'll delve into that topic in more detail. The letter A stands for author. Be sure to consider the writer's background and credibility to speak on a particular topic. And the letter P stands for purpose. Consider the mission of a particular publication or organization. Is the source known to be partisan? When analyzing the message or content of an information source, here are 5 factors to consider. What type of content is presented? Facts or opinions? Are sources that can confirm the information cited? Is the tone of the language neutral or is it loaded? Does the source present more than one point of view on a controversial topic, or is it one-sided? And if multiple points of view are included, are they presented in a fair manner? Let's look at each of these factors more closely. How do facts and opinions differ? A fact is a statement or a claim about something that happened or can be objectively proven. On the other hand, an opinion is an attitude towards something. This judgment or view or conclusion cannot be proven. Let's consider these 2 examples. Which one is an opinion? If you selected the first example, you're correct. The phrase best available in this statement cannot be objectively proven and is a judgment by the writer. In the second example, the claim that this is the most widely accepted scientific explanation can be documented by current research on the topic. The identification of opinions can sometimes be complicated by writers who mix fact with opinion. In these cases, you need to look more carefully at an argument. Sources should be cited when facts presented are not common knowledge, and also when subjective assessments or judgments are presented. This helps the reader to verify information. Here's an example. Do you see any subjective statements that should be documented with citations in the text below? The author refers to study after study, confirming a link between dairy products and cancer. However, no specific studies are cited for the reader. This assertion requires some sort of documentation. If sources are cited to support an author's claims, you should also consider the quality of sources used. Are they scholarly journals that present research findings, news reports, or editorials or other publications that present opinion? If research is cited, is it sponsored by an industry organization that could benefit from the findings? Inflammatory language like that shown in the illustration here is an obvious indication of source bias. Other word choices can influence our perceptions in more subtle ways. In the first example, the verb said is neutral. In the second example, the verb noted implies that this statement is factual. Is the information source balanced or one-sided? Does the author include or ignore other important points of view on the topic? Take a look at this example from Wikipedia. Does the content of the article on animal rights appear to be balanced or one-sided? It is balanced because it presents several viewpoints on this topic as well as criticism of those views. If other points of view are represented, does the author present them accurately and in a neutral or fair manner, or are they presented selectively or characterized in a negative way? The statement regarding changes in diet decreasing cancer is an opinion, but it is supported by a citation to another source. The tone of the language is neutral. Other points of view are represented by the statement that many other factors beside diet could affect this outcome. Thus, this statement is not one-sided. Let's move on to the second part of our three-step strategy. Consider the author's credentials. Authors are credible when their educational background matches the topic at hand, when they're affiliated with respected groups or publications, and when their work is subjected to review by other experts on the topic, also called peer review. Let's look at an example. Here's a blog post about bias in industry-sponsored scientific research. Let's click the link to check up on this author. The author does provide a great deal of information that will help us determine his credibility on the topic. And as you can see, some of his research is pertinent to the blog topic. So how is credibility linked to bias? Authors who have a deep knowledge of a field and who have withstood the scrutiny of reviewers are less likely to produce biased work. Let's consider the third part of our strategy for identifying bias, the purpose of the publication. Does it have a partisan purpose where it promotes one particular point of view? How can you tell? You can look at information provided on the site, such as the mission statement of the publication or organization. Consider also who is providing funding for an organization, who's on the board of directors or the editorial board of a publication. Look closely at the links to other organizations or publications to identify a particular bias toward one point of view. Here's another example, an article on climate change. The title is March of the Lemmings, Media Shuns Climate Change Reports Good News on Sea Levels. What do you think about the tone of this language? We can see some information about the author here, but let's find out more about the organization that published this report. We can click on the About Us link to learn more about the organization. As you can see, this is a conservative think tank. Advocacy organizations, think tanks, and some magazines aim to sway opinion. They are more likely to present slanted or biased information to accomplish these goals. Finally, let's review our three-step MAP-IT strategy. Consider the message. Look critically at some information presented in a source. Evaluate the author's background and credibility. And determine the purpose of the source. Is it known to be partisan? Using this strategy will help you to determine bias in the information sources you encounter. While bias is not inherently bad or good, it's important that you recognize it as you collect information for your research.